Hi there, guys. As you know, it's Dan and Jordan yet again with MANUP, and it's quite an awkward one. Is it an awkward one? I've started to question myself, and even with Jordan, about MANUP, because we see the likes, we see the communications, we deal with other charities as well, and I kind of noticed for the last 2 years, MANUP is very, very white, and it's really started to. I'm already starting to feel really awkward, but it's just. I need to just question, are we doing something which is only speaking to the white audience? Or has the black or the BAME or the ethnic community, have they just nailed something that white people haven't when it comes down to mental health? But then I started to look at things like the statistics about male suicide and mental health. And the black community, like mental health and all this kind of stuff, it's really hard to find data around it, and it's really, really high. Like male suicide rate, I think there's 1 year, 2008, male suicide rate is obviously is a big killer. Most of those were from the black community, but I didn't know that data until I was purposely looking for it. So I just wanted to, I started asking a few people from the black community, and the only excuse I could get is, oh, maybe it's just a cultural difference. Like, well, what's that cultural difference? What's? Am I making sense, by the way? Or
yes.
Yeah. So I'm just like, well, what's that cultural difference? And nobody can answer me. I'm like, well, why aren't the black community asking for help if they need it and all this kind of stuff? And this is where I met Nathan, because in that group I started saying this, and there was one guy in a conversation earlier on in that day who said to me, Dan, I think you're without saying it, was trying to call me racist because I was bringing up some real topics. And then me as a white guy, I'm like, am I being racist for asking, is there a problem with the BAME community and mental health? And are the people who do mental health missing a trick? Am I making sense on that? So, and Nathan, you come back at me with something. I was just like, well, I need you on MANUP to have a bit of a chat, really. Like, what's your opinion on what I've just said?
I would be concerned as to why you are feeling that you have done something wrong, as to why there are no black male or a lack of black male involved in what you are trying to achieve. And rather than looking at what you have done wrong, because the only reason you would need to look at what you've done wrong if you have done something wrong. Have you purposefully gone out and excluded blacks? Have you made it so that blacks don't feel welcome? If you haven't, then the blame is not on you. We then go to the point you made before about culture, and how nobody can answer that surprises me, because as black men, we are taught to be strong, right? Our ancestors were some of the strongest people ever. To be able to go on a ship from Africa across the Atlantic in a boat that wasn't like the QE2, all right, and still survive, all right? That took some strength. So we've come from that. We are taught to not talk. If you've got a problem, it will work itself out. If you're going through something, it will work itself out. So that has to be untaught now. That has to be taught that, look, not every white person is evil. You may see it in one person. We need to understand that evil goes across all races, all races. Get my words right? That we need to understand that there are people in every race that wants to help people in every race. So now the reason why a lot of black people wouldn't come is because we believe we can handle it. We can make it, until, of course, it's too late.
Wow. And this is why I wanted you to join a video on MANUP. Wow. Yeah, no, that is a good response. Jordan, ask quick. I literally don't know how to come back on that.
I think it's interesting you bring up the ancestry piece there as well, Nathan. And I think you're going to see a shift in each generation. Have you seen a shift in your own children now that they talk a little bit more openly about mental health based on their heritage?
Okay. Let me not digress, but just give, if I say it this way, it may make more sense. Me and my children, we talk openly about everything. Yeah? Me and my parents didn't talk openly about everything. So, is it purely on mental health? Well, we've not had a situation with mental health, but we have talked through situations. So when a situation arises with my children, we talk through it. And they're all old people, you know, got their own families and lives, getting on with their lives, yeah? But we, even now, are very close and we talk through everything. It is something that we as individuals have to do, because if I went by how I was brought up, it wouldn't be like that. So it's an individual has to change it for the next generation. And so that's been a massive difference. So mental health specifically, no. Why? Because situations are spoken about before it reaches to that.
Right. Okay. So if I can just, I don't want to change the subject. I don't think it's, I apologise, but because the one thing in my few conversations about this, the one thing I have noticed. Let me use an example here. Since I've been doing MANUP, Jordan's probably saying, more people talk to me about mental. Every conversation turns into a mental health conversation now. And I was speaking to one guy, and he was like, actually, because since the Black Lives Matters stuff has really taken a thing, and that's a good cause. Most of that is a good cause, I don't think. But he's saying every conversation he has now turns into a Black Lives Matter conversation, and no one actually asks how he is anymore.
And yeah, that's such a difficult one. How are you? Is for a man, I'm okay. I'm doing fine, because we haven't been taught. Understand? It's a teaching to say it's all right to say I'm not all right, and that goes across races. That's not just a black thing. However, it's now becoming more acceptable in the black race to say, you know what, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Can I have a chat? Can I meet with you? I don't know whether it's the same with you, but have you noticed how many times you're calling somebody, oh, I'm in a meeting, I'm in a meeting, I'm in a meeting. People are prepared to talk more, to have conversations more, and not feel, okay, growing up, you would have been called a sissy. Oh, that's for girls. Those are for weak people. That's for weak people. Being a leader at the very head, any leader will tell you that's the loneliest place to be.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Who do you trust when you're the head? Who do you talk to when you're the head? Who do you mix with? Look what's in the news now. The head had a good mate. That's now turned on them. So who does he talk to? I'm not sticking up for none of them. I'm just giving you the situation. Yeah. So when you're in leadership and you're black, who do you talk to? Or is it when you're in leadership, full stop? Who do you talk to? So we make things a color thing when at some points it doesn't need to. It's a human thing. It's just that in some of the other races, it was more acceptable to talk about it. Let's use another analogy. In some cultures, it's not acceptable to talk openly about sex. In some cultures, it's not acceptable to openly talk about men doing housework, men being, you know, what do they call it? Stay-at-home dads. What are you talking about? The man is supposed to go out. And it's the same with mental health. it's not acceptable in some cultures for men to say, you know what, I need help here. So what do men do? Struggle through until sometimes, unfortunately, it's too late. So it's about teaching and saying, look, let's have a chat, get more professional. I mean, I don't know of any black male counselors.
No,
I don't know of any. Jordan, mate.
No. I mean, on that teaching piece, you know, and you've just gave an example of an individual who could kickstart that conversation. Who else do you think needs to kickstart that conversation in terms of that teaching? Is it a spouse? Is it a colleague? Is it a friend? Or is it all of them?
It's all of the above. And it's probably going to start with a major incident. And I know we've had some, but a major incident, and someone starts the conversation. How can I put it? How did mental health get on the agenda in the first place? Do we really think mental health started since the pandemic? Of course it didn't.
Yeah.
Right. It's been around for ages, but there's some subjects that were taboo that now people are now very much ready to talk about. My concern would be, and I guess my only concern, is that mental health is then used as an excuse when it's not mental health, and those who really need the help will then miss out. That would be my only fear about this, because a lot of things that have been attributed to mental health may not be mental health. Yeah. So as much as we're looking for it, that's where the professionals need to come on board. How do we get the different laws? They're looking to get a Sarah Everard law, you know, we get and I'm trying to think of the names, but you get a law named after someone. Why? Because something tragic happened. I am saying that we need to let people, I'm just repeating, just let people know that it's okay to have that chat. Let people know. But you have to make it a safe environment as well. When I've spoken to you, when I've spoken to that person, am I going to hear it again? Where was the trust? Yeah. And people have been let down in the past. And most Black people find it difficult to trust on day one. Never mind to be let down, to get trust, to start trusting again. So trust will be big.
Yeah. So if I can just ask them, can I? So do you find, being a Black man, if you're in a conversation with a white person, how many times, and you don't know that person, how quickly does that conversation move into your race? Because that's one thing I have noticed is it's just, rather than me saying, now, Nathan, how are you, mate? Are you all right? And am I making sense? It's just,
yeah.
Why do we need, I think you've already said, why do we need to focus on the race thing? And I don't get it.
We have got a problem in this country, okay? And let me explain it. That when we were off air, I was asked, have I always lived in Ipswich?
Yeah.
The answer is yes, pretty much, yeah? I grew up as the only Black family on an estate. I didn't know I was Black, although I knew I was Black, right? Yeah. Names that I was called, which you dare not even mention now, was commonplace. But there wasn't that hate, that kind of, that hate behind it. Shows that would have been on TV, the black and white minstrel show, right? Yeah. They dare not show that now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have become so sensitive because of the behavior. I may be in the minority, but you can say what you want about my color. That won't bother me. How you treat me will bother me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I am used to being around white people. My grandson's father is white. My daughter-in-law is white. Yeah. My son-in-law, the same. Yeah. I'm used to it. But the only time color comes into it is when I'm walking down the street dealing with or talking to normal people. Color has never come into it. Ipswich has been a multicultural place. When my parents came here, my father is dead now, but they would tell you that it was the white people that took them in. And yes, there were notices on the door, no blacks here. But when my father started the church, the majority of people in that church was white people. And he had just come from the West Indies.
Yeah.
So you understand, we're now in a culture where we dare not even talk openly about race without being called racist. And a lot of the things we're calling racist now is not racism.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. And so so it's the same thing I was mentioning about mental health. A lot of things that people are calling mental health now, it's not, right? Yeah. Is that people need help, and mental health is real, and racism is real. It needs to be eradicated. Mental health needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
But we're now at the place where we're now going on then like everything is either racism, everything is mental health, and I'm concerned about it.
Yeah.
Because it's turning whites against blacks and vice versa.
Yeah. Nathan, do you feel over the last 12 months that we have progressed in these conversations, or do you?
No,
because for me, I feel like, well, not feel like, I know that racism's always been there. It's just now we have smartphones to be able to put it on the internet, and more people are aware of that. And since the murder of George Floyd back in, I'll say April time last year, and BLM and everything that's happened since, do you feel like we've progressed further in the conversations and are becoming more inclusive?
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure, because what happened back in the day, and I'm talking about 60s and 70s, it was a lack of education. And what we did then going forward is that we stopped educating. So we now got a generation, or maybe two generations, that think it's okay to do certain things. They don't know any different. We stopped talking about racism because we almost accepted it as the norm. So if I went for a job and I didn't get it, it was like, oh, well, there must have been someone else better. When I got passed over for promotion, oh, it must have been because someone, we accepted it. Now we've got a generation who's coming up saying, I am not going to accept it. It must be because I'm black. Not always. Not always. Yes, sometimes it is. I have been in situations when I know it's because I'm black. I know it is. But you know what I do? And it is because of who I am, right? I just say that for me, okay, that I am not going to hold it against that person. It's just that that person needs to be educated, right? I can't take up my life trying to sort out every single problem. That person needs to be educated. I don't think they need to be punished. They need to be educated. What's the use of punishing somebody if they don't know? They don't know any better. And we want to punish people and say, oh, they need to be stripped of this and stripped of that. Come on, we're doing the same in other ways. Racism isn't the only ill out there. And I've had racism against me, really, really bad. Put it down to lack of education. Lack of education. Let's think about how are we going to educate? Black and white were living happily in this town. The amount of mixed race, about the mixed race marriages in this town, and go to Liverpool and you see it's trebled, right? Places like Liverpool, we've got all of this mixed race. How do we feel that the white people who are married to black and vice versa are feeling in a time like this? How do you think those marriages are keeping together? Those mixed race children, how are they staying together? Yeah, that's where the mental health is going to come in. I don't know who to talk to now because my dad is black and my mum is white, or vice versa. Who do I talk to? Which side do I take?
So what do you say? So say for example, then if there's, I don't know, I'll label on this occasion. I don't mean offensive from it, but say there's a black lad who's watching this video who feels like he can't. Let's pick on it. Let's use your example. There's a mixed race male. It doesn't matter what the gender is. Do you know what? They're watching this and they're like, okay, I don't know whether to talk to the black side of the family or the white side of my family, so I don't know what to do. What would you say for that? And they're struggling with their mental health or whatever. What's your advice?
Therein lies the problem. I'm now having to pick who I go to based on their color, not on who can best help me. That's where the problem is.
Yeah.
Right? Let me go to the one that can help me best, not to the one of color. So let my mother who is white, no, my mother isn't, but my mother who is white, let me go to her because she can help me. My father who is black, let me go to him because he can help me. You know what? Better still, let me sit down with my mother and my father.
That was a good video, man. I need to go away and think about everything. I think that was good, but I'm going to end the video on that there. I don't want to cut that so short. It's just we're quite tight on the 20 minutes, and just people are lazy, man. They just don't watch. So I'm going to end that, and let me end the recording. Thank you very much for that.